Hi, this is Marshall Henley, and this is the Beza Performance Podcast. I'm the president of Beza Performance, and today we're talking again with Richard Sharpe of Competitive Insights, a Beza associate and 30-year supply chain expert that focuses on net landed profit analytics. Welcome, Richard.
Oh, Marshall, thank you for having me again. It's a pleasure.
It's always fun. Looking forward to kind of covering our second topic in the series. So before we get too deep into that, let's remind folks from last time what net landed profit is.
Sure. So net landed profit is based on creating a total cost to serve on an end-to-end basis. So anywhere that products are sourced in the world and every way they traverse the network, you want to capture those transactions and then be able to associate those with individual products and customers.
At
You
the
do the
SKU
same
level,
at the SKU level.
or
That's right.
more granular, right?
Yep. And then you want to do the same thing on the revenue side. So you've looked at for a customer and a product. How has that revenue been reduced through chargebacks or any other form of reduction? And that gives you the ability to have net landed profit for every customer, for every product, every location through every channel.
Yes. Okay. And I guess to kind of net that out for maybe an executive that's like, I already have this. You probably don't. It's not cost accounting, and it's not cost allocation methodologies. It's
Right.
different because at the transactional level, you're really calculating what the contribution to profit is of that individual product going to that individual customer without peanut butter smearing all over and obscuring that actual number. And in doing so, you typically find that you've got unprofitable customers and unprofitable products at unprofitable customers. So I always say what kind of looking at here is something like your five customers that are your five customers and the 10 products that they're consuming that are costing you 3% of your operating profit, something like that.
Yeah, that's right. Standard cost accounting is a great thing, but it
Yeah.
doesn't get down to that granularity. And so, as you said, the costs are spread across, different dimensions of the data. So, what you need is, in order for it to be actionable, it needs to be very specific and very accurate for every product and for every customer. And so, it's really vital that you have that information, that your organization can use that information because we all know these are tough
Yeah.
times. Inflationary pressures are huge, and
Mm.
people are looking for ways to quickly identify opportunities to reduce costs and protect margins.
So I tend to position this as a real strategic advantage and a way that leadership can get involved with really identifying this month's changes that are going to benefit everyone, and instead of kind of the entire organization sort of sorting out over months and months, maybe even a year, where they might make a change, something that's more immediate because of the pinpointing accuracy of knowing what the profit contribution of every product at every customer is like.
That's right. You don't want to treat this as a project. The world is changing way too
Right.
fast. So you want to be able to have this as an ongoing capability. As you're building this, you should be thinking about this as a tool that you're going to use to make those
Yeah.
strategic decisions and operational decisions because, they're all tied together. And also, Marshall, to your point, you want it to be cross-functionally used. You want it to
Mm.
be a useful tool not just to supply chain, but for sales and finance, and just anyone who is trying to get to better performance information associated with decisions they're making for the organization.
Yeah, and that's part of the trusted, right? Everybody that's a domain expert is validating their chunk of the data before you get to the point where you're even trying to do analysis and make decisions. So, in fact, let's
Absolutely.
level set for everybody and bring back up what we showed last week.
Okay,
And just give me 1 second here.
sounds good.
What do I do with it? Here we go. Sorry. So this is what we showed last week. Just we're trying to show folks how to do this on their own. We're showing your tools, obviously, that we use when we engage, but basically the stepwise process that we're going to be focusing on in this series is what we have on screen.
Right. So we want to demystify the whole idea of analytics to help you with this. And so we keep it down to four basic steps. The ready, which is we were just talking about as far as being ensured that the data that you're using to do this is trusted and actionable. Then you
Hmm.
have your aim, and aim is what we're going to spend most of our time on today, which
Yeah.
is how do you use that information and transform it into a specific cost to serve and net landed profit for every product and customer. Then as a foundation, with that in hand, you move to fire. And fire is where, okay, I'm going to now use that information to make smart strategies that are associated with my customer segmentation. What customers are making money? What customers are we losing money? Products, inventory to supplement your inventory management tools around profitability. And then finally, measure, which is that refresh you just mentioned, and what worked, what decisions that we made last month are working well, which ones are not, and are there new opportunities that we didn't see last month that we really should take advantage of.
Okay, great. So today is going to be step two, I think we're looking at
That's right, aim.
primarily. Okay. And before we go too much further, I just want to make sure you like and subscribe. If you're on YouTube, that'll make sure that you see the next in the series. And then if you're on LinkedIn, like, and then if you follow my profile, that'll make sure you see it there as well. So, all right, let's jump into what you've got on your tool set on the screen, Richard,
Okay.
and you can walk us through the aim.
Well, just as we said before, we've got our four basic steps that we just covered, and we are going to focus on AIM, which is all around being able to look at cost to serve and profit in different ways, different dimensions that will be important to make decisions for the organization. So let's just start by going over and looking at the first part of a net landed profit report. You would say this looks a lot like a P&L statement, but you'll see in just a moment, we're going to go a lot down to a lot more specific detail with regard to
Hmm.
performance on customers and products and channels. But what we have is a layout that basically should look pretty straightforward.
Hmm.
We have our gross sales, and basically that's just exactly what you would think, and all the ways that revenues can be reduced, so discounts, chargebacks, etc. That's very important. Now let's go down into the actual cost side. So our standard cost is obviously the cost to make or to buy the product, usually one of the highest costs. And then we all have all the line items that are important. And what's really critical here, Marshall, is that you want these line items to be specific to your organization. You don't want to be forced to go into a one approach fits all box. You want to design these so that you can focus on the costs that are most important to you.
I lost some audio. I'm not sure if that's me or that's you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you fine. Not good?
Why don't you keep going? I'll check my own audio. I'm not sure what happened there. One sec.
Okay.
Go ahead, Richard.
So as you can see, we have those costs, and when we have all of those costs delineated, we have a net landed cost to serve for as a part of the foundation that we're going to talk about. And then finally, since we have the actual detailed revenue and the actual real cost, that gives us the ability to measure profitability. And as you can see on this report, everyone has a standard margin. And in this example, for that first quarter, we're just about at 42% for a standard margin. But when you get all of the costs directly attributable to the customers and products, as we've discussed, you can see that drops down to 5.6%. And that's a major difference between standard margin and a net landed profit margin. So as a layout, that's basically where you want to start. And now what you want to be able to do is drill in on the specifics of that, which we'll show you in just a moment. Sound good, Marshall? Looks like we're having some audio problems. Well, Marshall, if there's something you'd like me to do from my side, I'm very happy to do that. Okay, well, then let's just assume that Marshall's checking on his end. So what I just mentioned was that there was a net landed cost to serve associated with that, and we went over the margins. Now let's go into the specific details for that. And as you can see, there across those quarters that you're seeing here, we have the actual standard margin and the net land profit margin, and you can see the tremendous difference associated with the performance when you can tie it back to the granularity that we've talked about. But now, once we know we have that information, what's really important is how do we want to look at it? How do we want to slice and dice that information? And as you can see in our example, which is something that you can look at as you're doing your own design, is we have different ways to be able to view that information. And you can see these are all filters associated with different ways to slice and dice the data. So specifically, let's just look at a few of those. We could look at it by the various channels that we sell our product in, e-commerce, retail, wholesale, etc. That would be one way to do it. Or maybe we want to go over and look at it by region, your sales territory regions or operating regions, whether that's domestic or
Mhm.
international. Uh, that's really, certainly going to be a useful tool for people to be able to slice and dice it by that.
Certainly.
Let's go.
I'm I'm still here.
Okay, good. That's great. Welcome
Technical
back.
difficulties. Yeah, I heard it all. I just you couldn't hear me, so
Okay.
keep going.
Well, now what we're going to do is we want to possibly look at it for individual customer. How well is that customer performing? Is it a great customer? Is it a really terrible customer? Has it been a terrible customer over time? But again, very quickly being able to look at things to solve problems, if you will, reduce the costs, handle inflationary pressures, protect margin.
Mhm.
Or we might want to be able to go over to different ways to look at the products. And we might say, hey, we have these product categories. So we want to look at activewear or we want to look at innerwear, whatever it might be. But again, designed for your business the way you think about your business. And then coming down, we could look at hierarchies. So we have a category and we might be able to break that category of product down even further. Or finally, we just look at an individual product. So the whole focus here is when you're designing your system, you want to be able to look at this data any way that is important to you and your organization in order to have that performance visibility.
Yeah, those are the dimensions that you want to take a look at. Okay.
That's right. Absolutely. So with that, we're going to go in and actually look at it by channel now. So as
Okay.
you'll see, the report is going to change. And what we're going to do is we're going to see that profit and cost information specific for the channels. So you have retail, wholesale, e-commerce, and outlet stores. And now what instead of having a generalized view across the entire organization, I'm looking at it by channel. So that's really important to be able to do that as one example of different ways to look at performance information. So that, again, is specific to each of these categories, if you
Mhm.
will.
This is where it starts
Um,
getting interesting.
yeah, yeah. And now, so let's say that we have that information, and now what we want to do is start to, as you say, make it even more interesting. So let's think about ways that last week we talked about customers that were profitable, those that were unprofitable, and that's generally called customer segmentation. So I want to look at segmentation to be able to classify groups of products or customers or channels into some form of classification that is tied back to their operating performance on cost and on profit. So let me just show you a quick example of that.
Okay, sounds great.
Super. So now what we're going to do is we're going to look at that information and we're going to break it down even further. We're going to look at the wholesale channel and we're going to do some things associated with even more granularity
Okay.
associated with how we might want to look at that information. That sound good?
Yep.
All right, let's do it. So specifically, we're going to go down to the product performance segmentation, and we're going to look at how we can, in fact, look at that data in a way that makes sense. But to make the point even further, why don't we look at it for specific states? So let's think about what we're doing. We have segmentation that says, okay, I'm going to be looking at customers that are really great producing customers. I'm going to look at customers that are marginally producing. I'm going to look at unprofitable customers, in this case, products. I said customers, but it's
Right.
products.
Products. Yeah.
And I want to look at it for just these three states. So, what can I learn from that? That's really the question. And then, what actions can I take in order to be able to improve the operation, if you will?
So just to clarify what we were talking about earlier, these columns of unprofitable in your bottom 4% plus your top 96%, those would be radically different. Maybe you would have zero unprofitable
Yep.
items if you were using cost accounting because of the allocation process.
Absolutely. No,
Yeah.
no question about it. And to be able to do it by a state or a territory, that would be very difficult to do with a P&L statement, a
Yeah.
normal, standard cost accounting. So let's take a look at what we can learn from this one example. Remember, three
Yep.
states, and we've broken in the products into how well they're performing. So in our unprofitable, we see we have about $1.5 million of sales for these three states, and that is about a little over 1% of the total sales for the company. We go over to the bottom, and there's 125,000, but our top 96% of our products sold in these three states is generating sales of about $2 million. So that's
Hmm.
interesting. Probably you could get that from your sales system. There's no doubt about it. Let's
Sure.
go down to the cost side, though. Look at the cost. So now on the unprofitable products being sold in this state, we have a cost structure that's about $1.5 million. That's cost just for these products, just in
Hmm.
these three states. So
Hmm.
go over to the very top, the very high performing products, the ones that are really making all the money. We have a cost structure that's even lower than our unprofitable products. Look at that.
Hmm.
$1.45 million in cost for, a group of products that's giving me 96% of my profit, but I am spending a $1.5 million on products that are totally unprofitable in this state. You think that would be useful to know, Marshall?
Yeah. That's quite enlightening.
Yep. And so that's the whole goal, is to be able to provide that information.
Yeah.
Look at the margins. So the unprofitable products are losing 13.3%. That's
Hmm.
quite a bit when the top products are making 25.6% for
Hmm.
these three states. So, from here, you're going to want to do a lot of things, which we'll show you in Fire
Sure.
next time. But the whole goal is to be able to say, where am I losing money? Where am I making money? And break it up, segment it in different ways to slice and dice it. So let me tell you a really quick story.
Sure.
There's a great champion and a company out of Chicago, several billion-dollar company, and he wanted to have this information. And what he did is he said, let's look at this across all of our channels, and let's see if we are in fact over serving certain customers. Meaning, are we giving our unprofitable products and unprofitable customers the same level of service that we're giving our highly profitable customers? And they found out that on the outbound transportation in one particular channel, they were giving the exact next day service they were giving to their really profitable customers. And they changed that, and they dropped $3 million just on the outbound transportation by going from next day service to five-day service just for those customers.
And kept the customers too, right? The
Yeah.
moral of that story is they didn't jettison the customers, and they just changed the service levels for the customers that were unprofitable.
That's right. So
Yeah,
that's the power of being able to get using that transactional level, and
yeah.
then again ensuring the data is trusted, and then being able to drill in on details like this so that you can identify those opportunities, do it quickly so that in fact you can make decisions that have an immediate impact.
So this is why, Richard, you and I get along so well. I love what I call lensing approaches, where as an organization you're sort of forced to ask the right questions.
Mhm.
The answers are up to you, right? That's based on your individual strategy, where you're trying to go with the organization, what those questions mean in terms of maybe changing your mind about the direction of the organization. All
Yeah.
of that. That's one of the reasons we do so much SNOP for manufacturers. But this process, you call it pinpointing. I think that's a better term for it. It really gets us into those few identified places that need change in order to make a big impact, instead of having to look at like a whole segment of clients that is maybe overkill because you don't have the granularity you need to make the right
Well,
decision.
and that takes a lot of time if you're not gonna
Sure.
use a tool like this, so but, the thing that's really important, Marshall, is that and encouraging everyone to have a tool like this, to build a
Yeah.
tool like this, is that when you are in a, operation that doesn't have this information and you are trying to lower those costs, you are trying to handle the pressures of the day, if you will, what generally happens is you have these, siloed views, so
Yeah.
sales will have a view, and supply chain will have a view, and finance will have a view, even in an S&OP process. So in the problem solving process, half the time is arguing who's right,
Yeah.
you know?
That's
And what you want to be able to do is say, hey, that's off the table. This data has been validated. It is correct. We check it every time we're refreshing the information. So let's not get into what's right or wrong. This is one version of the truth. This is what's actually happening. Now let's use that and make smart decisions for the company.
so if we kind of were to sum up where we've gone, we're kind of through two of the four steps, and we've gone quickly. But the idea is to gather the data at the transactional level and vet it in a way. In some cases, you use machine learning to make
Right.
sure that everybody's on board. All the subject matter experts are behind the data, and then we reconfigure it into a net landed profit. Looks a little bit like an income statement, but it's not, because it's completely configured based on what kind of view into the data you need for your operational
That's
system,
right.
plus all of the dimensions of query that you need in order to ask the right questions and get down to whatever level of detail you want. Once
That's
you've kind of done that, you're kind of where we're at now in terms of your description. Is that
That's
fair?
right. That
Okay.
is fair. So you're going to see when you build this tool, you're going to see immediate opportunities. But the way to think about this and the aim that we're talking about right now is this is a foundation. So we want to use that foundation to actually build on targeted analytics around the pressures of the organization. As I
Okay.
mentioned before, it may be around looking at customers, products, inventory, supply chain risk. There's a whole number of things that you can do. And the beautiful thing about it is that different parts of the organization will use the data in different ways to manage
Yeah.
those kinds of decisions, but it's coming from one data source. When you refresh that, everybody gets the benefit in the organization because you have that one version of the truth. It's just how
Mhm.
they're using it to manage their part of the operation.
Okay. Well, this has been very helpful. I hope everybody's kind of got some benefit from it. Obviously, we're available at bezaperformance.com if you want to learn more. If you want to connect with myself or Richard, Richard's at ci-advantage.com if you want to directly reach Competitive Insights. And of course, we work together quite a bit on joint projects where we combine lean thinking, S&OP, and competitive insights approach to net landed profit analytics, as well as some other disciplines. So, any parting thoughts, Richard?
Well, I just again reiterate what you said, Marshall. I think our goal here is to make this information useful and meaningful, and really to give people relief that, hey, this really can be done, and
Yeah.
we can do this, and we can manage the organization in a better way. Because oftentimes a lot of our conversations are, it just won't work, and you want to get past that. You want to
Yeah.
get that competitive advantage. It will work, and you
Sure will.
can do it, and you should do it.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Richard, we'll have you back in July. Looking forward to kind of looking at step 3 in the net landed profit analytics approach. And until
Absolutely.
then, we'll keep on keeping on. Thanks for watching, folks, and stay tuned. Later this week, Thursday, I believe we're doing Respect for People with Scott Galvin on the Beza Performance live stream.
Thank you.
Thank you.